Well, a change of pace for you now on Breakfast. Amid the glitz of the Oscars next week, there's one nominated film this year that tells a very serious story. Killing in the Name is running for Best Documentary. It follows a Jordanian man who lost 27 friends and family members when an Al-Qaeda suicide bomber targeted his wedding. Now, let's take a look at a bit of the film, and a warning, the content is quite confronting.
Myself, I lost my father, I lost my father-in-law, and friends. They don't have the right to kill people in the name of God.
Now, Carrie Lemack produced the film, and she's also a founder of the Global Survivors Network. That's a group for terror survivors to speak out against terrorism. She started the group after her mother was killed in the September 11 attacks. Her mother was a passenger on American Airlines Flight 11 that crashed into one of the Trade Center towers. Ms Lemack joins us now from Los Angeles. Carrie Lemack, thank you for your time this morning, and good morning.
Thank you. Good morning to you.
Ashraf Al-Khaled, looking at the film, he strikes me as an extraordinary individual to bounce back from what was a horrible tragedy. Tell us a bit about him.
Ashraf is an amazing man. He's fearless. Obviously, as you just saw, he lost 27 members of his family when his wedding was attacked by Al-Qaeda operatives. He lost his father, his wife Nadia's parents were both killed, and he and I and other victims around the globe realize that whenever the terrorists speak out, they get a microphone put in front of them. We want to provide another side of the story. Just like when opposing political parties, when one speaks, we listen to the other one as well. When the terrorist speaks, we think the victim should have a right to speak as well.
And he, as with other people in the film, makes the very important point that the majority of people, when you consider all of the terrorist attacks around the world, the majority of the people killed or maimed are indeed Muslims.
That's correct. The vast majority are Muslims. Even if we look at the Bali bombing, where there are 88 Australians were killed, but a very large number of Muslim Indonesians were also killed in the first Bali bombing. And of course, there have been so many others around the Arab and Muslim worlds.
Now, you mentioned the Bali bombing there. The group behind that was Jemaah Islamiyah. Your film speaks to one of the previously most dangerous members of that group, and we learn from the film that he's had a bit of a change of heart about the tactics employed by that terror organisation.
That's correct. We worked with a gentleman named Nasir Abbas, who used to be a radical. He has now changed his ways, and he's helping to de-radicalize people who want to kill innocents in the name of what they consider their religion. Now, obviously, we're trying to reach out with victims around the globe, with victims in Australia, in the Middle East, in all throughout Southeast Asia, and of course in Europe and Americas, because we think our story, the story of survivors and victims of terrorism, can be that much more powerful than anyone who might be sympathetic to the grievances expressed by terrorists once they recognize what the true horrors of terrorism is.
And equally, I suppose, one of the more depressing aspects of the film, we travel with one of the widows of an Indonesian man killed in Bali when she addresses a madrasa of young Muslims who are gearing up to take part in what they say is the global jihad. And it appears from the film that her anti-terror message has limited impact.
Well, I've seen the film many times. As you can imagine, I do screenings all over the globe. And there are some students in that madrasa who are saying what they've been taught for years and years. They're still sort of preaching what they've been, the radical thoughts that they have. However, there are students in that portion of the film who don't speak, but who are watching and listening. And I think that that widow, her name is Ibu Eka, or Ibu Endang rather, her message and her story of losing her husband, of her sons who lost their father, I think it resonated with these children who have been so enmeshed in a radical ideology, they've never had a chance to see what the true horrors of terrorism really are. And that's what Global Survivors Network is trying to do, is to show the truth of terrorism so that nobody could buy in to the hatred ideology that's espoused by some people.
We mentioned at the start, of course, you lost your mother in the September 11 attacks. The 10th anniversary of those attacks will be marked this year. It's hard to believe a decade has passed. Where would you put the fight against terror, the fight to minimise these feelings of hatred is 10 years down the track?
Well, I think we obviously have a long way to go. There are still attacks all over the globe. But I think we're making progress. And I'm just so hopeful because I have met people like Ashraf, like Ben Borja in Sydney, who lost his mother and sister in the Bali attacks, like Ibu Endang, a widow in Indonesia. And we're coming together. We know that Al-Qaeda has a global reach. I think once the victims do, once we can speak out for our loved ones, there's no better way to honor the memory of those who've been lost. And that's what we look forward to doing and continuing to do.
Carrie Lemack, thank you, and I wish you all the best at the Oscars on Monday.
Thank you so much. We've got our fingers crossed.
Good luck.